In this interview with regards to China, first in Nikkei Asia, the Prime Minister spoke about in the context of China and Pakistan. Another big takeaway in that interview is with regards to China. The question that was asked was, how will India address China's military expansion in the South China Sea and East China Sea and the rising tension in the Taiwan Strait to maintain international law and territorial integrity? Prime Minister Modi says India stands for respecting sovereignty, peaceful resolution of disputes and adherence to international law. India is committed to protecting its sovereignty and integrity while promoting peaceful resolution of maritime disputes based on international law. India has successfully resolved land and maritime boundaries with Bangladesh, showcasing its approach. Abhishek, you know, the point being made here is that if India can resolve its maritime dispute and land concerns with Bangladesh, it is committed in doing so also with China. But it is China, perhaps, which is not ready to have that kind of discussion with India.
Of course, and we have seen China's problem, which is not just with India, but China's problem is all the neighborhood that is lying just next to China, be it in South China Sea, with Japan, with Philippines, with India. So, I mean, not a single country around China is not having a problem with Chinese aggression or Chinese not respect of sovereignty. So while Prime Minister Modi was answering that question on the issue of Taiwan, we can easily relate with that how India and Bangladesh, despite being very disproportionate in the context of size, they did discuss the issue of maritime and land boundaries, and the issue was resolved permanently. And now we could see the that problem has been resolved between the two sides. So clearly, those issues between a big country and a small country could also be solved with a very respected, in a most respected manner. And one country which is larger in size and capacity and strength doesn't need to be an aggressor to just grab the land of other countries. So this is in that context, he has said that a peaceful resolution of all the conflicts with China or with other countries is something that India is looking forward to, and it is working in that direction only.
And Dr. Sastry Rao, you know, China and Pakistan on expected lines featuring in both the interviews and both the dailies asking those questions as expected. But you're seeing that very clear difference as far as India making an effort in explaining its position on both the countries. We have geographically, not the best position, one would say, because we have two belligerent neighbors in China and in Pakistan. If you look at the big takeaway, what he said in the context of Pakistan, Dr. Rao, and with regards to China, on the question of Pakistan, Prime Minister had said it is incumbent upon them to create a conducive environment for free from terrorism and hostilities. The onus is on Pakistan to take necessary steps in this regard. So when it is about international diplomacy, India's saying it again and again that a terror state cannot be brought to talks. It has to first take action within, and then only can there be talks. Dr. Rao.
Absolutely. Maria, see, it's very clear. I think India's also come out as a very pragmatic diplomatic actor because of all that we saw happening. Because India was parallelly holding the two presidencies, one of the G20 and other of the SCO. And you saw that when it came to the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meetings, we have extended our invitation to Pakistan as well, because, that in a very diplomatic, in a pragmatic diplomatic outreach and commitment, to what we are required to do as an SCO president. And we extended an invitation. And you saw that Mr. Bilawal Bhutto was in India and he was in Goa, and I think he was very happy about being in Goa, and he was, online constantly. So all that apart, what I mean to say is that I think India has made its position very, very clear that yes, we understand what is incumbent upon an SCO, leader, what we are required to, in terms of trying to have, a fair, role, what is required of us to play, that we understand. But at the same time, whenever it comes to anything with terrorism, I think the position has been made very, very clear repeatedly by the external affairs ministers and whoever. I mean, you look at all the Indian leaders, all the Indian ministers, all the Indian statements, the ball is pretty much in Pakistan's court. And you also are then dealing with a state which is having a lot of other problems as well. I mean, we all know what is happening in Pakistan domestically. So that's a very, very clear message, and I'm happy it is repeated again at G7. The other thing on China, see, I think India understands, like anybody else in the world would, that you can't really wish away a neighbor. You have to manage, your problems with that neighbor. And when it comes to China, I think India is doing a lot, both what you see in the public discourse and what you not see in the public discourse. There are different mechanisms by which India tries to engage and India tries to send a stern messaging to China. Now, we could debate on whether this is enough or not enough, and those are different things. But what I'm saying is that India is very well aware of the problems that we have on our borders and the way we have developed mechanisms to deal with them. And in that regard, I think G7 is again important because, one of the reasons, again, I would come back to what Prime Minister Kishida has been pushing for. If you see that Prime Minister Kishida has been one of the few world leaders, in fact, he's been one of the only world leaders among the G7 who has been pushing this idea of an indivisible security. Now, he says that the security concerns from Europe to Asia are actually linked, and he says that it's indivisible. So you can't really have a different set of mechanisms for dealing with what you're doing in Europe and what you're doing with Asia. And of course, he has the cross-strait crisis, the Taiwan crisis, the Senkaku Island crisis in his mind when he says it. But just in terms of the template, if you take out the context of the Ukraine war and linking it with Taiwan and the Senkaku Islands, just in terms of the template, the template of the indivisible security is actually important, because what it actually tells us is that you cannot de-link the core security issues, and which is one of the things that the G7 is doing. Now, how do you link the security issues? You link the security issues when you have some sort of an institutional framework for trying to link the climate change challenges to all the problems about the semiconductor industry, from there to the nuclear disarmament, etc. Though
Dr.
India has a
just
different
hold
view
on to your
it,
thoughts on our television.